We're just about getting ready to go. So get yourself saddled up. Headphones are on. We're good to go. We're going to have people tune in any second here.
Just a minute. What happened?
All right.
I couldn't start my live here. Maybe it's just I have to put my eyes back or what?
Oh, no. Gosh darn it. I'll get this done for you here. Oh my God, stop it.
Maybe we can just go back and
It goes from what's on your mind and then, oops.
It should say live.
Your Facebook sucks. Okay, what's on your mind? Go live.
Yeah.
Start live video. Okay, you're good.
You already did? You already started?
Yep, it started.
Okay.
All right, happy man. Let's get going, brother. And here we go. All right, we are here for a live edition of the Mankey Show podcast. I'm your host, Mark Mankey, and this is the Mankey Show podcast. All right, we have a very special show here today. We have live in studio, streaming on Facebook Live, the one and only Happy Man, the notorious Happy Man. And he's here with us. Happy, welcome to the show, man.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure and honor to be here with you.
Well, I tell you, man, there is a whole lot of rarity with you. You're like a unicorn. You're a guy that's aspired for political office. We're flying a little low and did a couple of things that you regret, and now you're coming clean on it. I wish there was a lot more of it, and I believe that there's a real appetite for people just to have some honest people. And here you are on the show. So for those that don't know, there's a whole lot of controversy going on right now with our premier wannabe, Jason Kenney. And Happy, tell me the story about the kamikaze voting.
Before I start that, I just want to let your audience know that I moved to Canada back in 1990, and I've been living in Alberta since 1991. And of course, the politics is something which I'm passionate about, and that was my passion. And I started politics back from Ralph Klein era. So I've been always a conservative. I know it's hard for some individuals to believe that staying as a conservative for 20 years and now explaining the kamikaze is sometimes hard to swallow. But that's a reality. That's a truth that I've been conservative my whole life. And then this kamikaze thing came forward, and all of a sudden, Happy Man is in a different way, infamous or famous, I don't know, but we are doing this, right? So in reality is when Jason Kenney approached me back in June of 2017, he approached me that let's go for a breakfast or lunch or whatever the suitable time. So because he was looking to be a leader for the UCP. And everyone knows that I contested in 2012 and in 2015 under the Wild Rose banner in Calgary area. Once in Calgary, and the first time it was Calgary Cross, and then the second time it was in Calgary McCall. And both time I lost by a very little margin of about 400 to 500 votes. So I was known in that area, and I've been known in Wild Rose because I served as in the Wild Rose executive as well as a provincial director. So it was obvious for Jason Kenney to invite the people like us who are a bit of known in the political field. So we had that meeting, and in that meeting, we discussed the politics in general, as well as specifically how to make him win, and because he asked the support. And obviously it was also in the interest of that I was not really happy in a way that the wild rose, which we built with our blood and sweat, and that was the whole reason for
That
us.
was a heartbreaker.
That was a
and
heartbreaker.
The way that it happened, and the Wild Rose had such huge success. And then for the leader to cross the floor, one of the founding members, that was unbelievable.
And after that, we did well in 2015. Even after the floor crossing, individuals like us, we stuck with the core principal values of the grassroots system, and we still had about 22 MLAs. And after that, inviting, having a dancing partner to be bringing the two parties together, somehow I was thinking, you know what was the reason of building the Wild Rose if we're going to go back to the same entitled, same cronies?
That's why we got rid of them in the first place.
So that's the reason I was on the side of, I said, okay, you know what, Brian Jean, you should have not done this to give this invitation. I'm going to be very honest and upfront with your audience. That's the reason I was working with Jason Kenney at that time, because inside of me was saying, you know what, it shouldn't happen. But if it is, I'm going to put my 2 cents into it as well. So in that first meeting, it was decided that yes, I accept his invitation, and I offered my support for Jason Kenney.
Now, was it clear during the entire conversation with Jason Kenney, was it absolutely clear that the idea was basically to have a straw man candidate or kamikaze candidate as like that was the plan all along, or that just sort of happened later on?
No, it was his appetite. If you look from between June to July 19, in June when I met him one-to-one, and when the first meeting happened at Jeff Calaway's house in July 19, where the actual kamikaze was planned, in between, and he has a meeting with Derek Filderbrand.
So from the beginning, it was always intentionally a straw man candidate.
It was intentionally that somebody is needed in the middle to park the Wild Rose side of the votes, which was not, they were not ready to go for Jason Kenney, but we can somehow park them with any candidate. And later on, as a Brian Jean will be damaged in the political field, I'm saying, and then slowly and gradually that support will go back to Jason Kenney along with that candidate.
So how did you help that process, the kamikaze candidate, straw man candidate? Like, how were you personally involved?
What happened is when I was talking, and everyone knows that Jeff Calaway was the Wild Rose president, so I have a good relationship with him as well. Then the magical part was there was an individual named Shubhlay Mujumdar who works for Harper and Associate. So he got brought in by Jason Kenney from his federal counterparts to facilitate or to help in this leadership. And later on, when we were talking with Shub, and we learned that he is also a good friend of Jeff Calaway, as well as he was working with us because he's from Indian subcontinent in the South Asian descent in nature. So in that one, because he was also known to Jeff Calaway, I was also known to Jeff Calaway, both of us were working for Jason Kenney. And once Derek Filderbrand said no, so obviously somebody who has still some appetite to be coming forward and who could be also in a way loyal or follow the directions which revealed later on. So Jeff Calaway was chosen, and he agreed. And this is what the July 19 meeting was, a very close meeting between 7 individuals to make sure that Jeff is comfortable and he's doing everything, and Kenney and Jeff are on the same page. So that is how everything was planned, and it was nothing hidden between both of them. Jason Kenney was well aware, and Jeff Calaway was well aware.
So the Calaway was a willing participant the whole time. He knew that he was just going to go for a while, split the vote, and then try to bring the vote over to Kenney. That was always the plan.
That was always a plan, but from a politics, always there is 1% chance in a politics when individual who is jumping in will think, if anything goes wrong on the other side, maybe I will have a shot.
Right.
And I'm not going to rule out that part, but that was never an intent. That, and everyone knows that the struggle part of that, that he was not well equipped with the team enough to run for a full tenure of to be in a leadership. So everything which has been revealed now, which has been either in the form of the emails or the other leaked emails, it is very clear. So in my opinion, it will be a unbiased system, that if we say, oh, it was not my, Jason Kenney will say, it's not my appetite. Well, it was your appetite because you approached Derek Filderbrand already before. So it was your wish come true when Derek Filderbrand said no, and then Jeff Calvé came forward. So this is something needs to be very clear, that if Jason Kenney would not have that appetite to run somebody as in a kamikaze mission or a stalking horse or whatever the name we give, then why did he approach Derek Filderbrand in the first place? So, and that's why the reason he came to July 19 meeting with his campaign manager and all. So it was well planned.
So on its face, it definitely looks like dirty pool, but does it cross the line of dirty pool all the way to illegal? You were questioned by the RCMP, were you not?
Yes, I've been called by them, and I gave my statement to them.
Okay. So are they looking at criminality with this, or is it just like, why would the RCMP get involved? Is there actual potential for election laws that have been violated here?
That is something they have to decide. When this whole audio got leaked, right? It all started with that audio of Wendy Adams' audio got leaked, and that's how I think this whole election stuff got the term kamikaze, right? So since that, I've been telling the one thing. I said, you know what? If the authorities will ever ask me, I'm not going to lie. Because previously what happened, I was not even aware that, in my opinion, in my thought process, I was thinking this is a politics we are playing. Because when you're sitting on a table with the future premier to be, when you're sitting with his campaign manager, another individual who's been a powerful minister for 12 years, it doesn't cross your mind that he will let you do something which turns out to be either illegal or even unethical.
So at what point were you starting to get uncomfortable?
No, when this whole audio thing leaked out and my name came forward, because my name was on that list of the donors list. And then I started realizing, is this something happened here, which I did it in unconscious system, or what happened? So I started realizing maybe I should dig more and find out what happened. And then as the kamikaze getting unfolded, and as I see that the investigation started, so I started doing some research, and I felt, you know what? Yes, there is some moral and ethical grounds has been broken. I don't care what the legal part is, but at the first place, when you understand the term kamikaze, then when you look at from all this aspect now, you say, you know what, something went wrong. And I always believe in that. I'm a human being. We all are human beings. I'm not born as a saint. I'm not saint today. I'm a normal human being. If I do make a mistake, I think you need a courage to come forward, because if you will not admit your mistake, you will never correct your mistake.
I agree. I wish our prime minister would understand that.
Yeah. So I wish everyone. So for me, it was realization part. I realized that some ethical and moral grounds has been compromised here. So I should come forward and I should say, you know what, Albertans, I know you're generous. I know you're very forgiving. And this is the part I did wrong. And I have a courage to come forward and admit, because I ran twice. Doesn't matter whether I won or not, but I still try to represent the state. And I don't think the voters want the individual like me, who will never come forward and say, sorry, I made a mistake. Because that's the beauty of this nation, is that you admit it, you move on.
And it probably hasn't been the easiest thing to admit it
It is not.
and come forward, not just because it's difficult to expose yourself like that, but you subject yourself to blowback. So has there been any blowback to you? Have you got a call from Jason Kenney? Has there been an official response?
You always get an official response through the media by calling us a discredited, right? So I don't know what that word mean today as a discredited means. Jason Kenney came to the Alberta politics 2 years ago. I've been in the Alberta politics, and especially in a conservative politics, from the last 15 to 20 years. And all of a sudden, there is a credibility to the.
So what publications have been saying that you're not credible?
Well, all this whenever the media send any note to the party about the response, and they say he's a discredit, he's disgruntled, or whatever the word they want to use.
So they're saying that it's sour grapes.
It's
you're just bitter because you didn't get the nomination.
The reality is, they should understand the term sour grapes first, because the whole conservative movement in whole Canada, they're applauding Jody Wilson. They've been demanding a Jody Wilson to come and speak the truth and tell the truth. And I don't know when this hypocrisy went into Kenney's mind by saying, if any conservative wants to tell the truth, he's disgruntled, he's a sour grape. But if there is any liberal wants to tell the truth, all of a sudden he or she is a hero. So this is a complete hypocritical political system which has been designed.
Well, it's a perfect parallel. The Jody Wilson-Raybould situation is very close to parallel to your Jody Wilson-Raybould with a beard.
So this the question what I'm trying to raise here is that since when we got such a bad tolerance level that we can't even ready to tell the truth or even listen the truth. And on the other hand, if you go out of the borders of Albertans, we want everyone else to tell the truth. So where this line will be drawn? So this has been a different level of the political correctness reaching in the mind of I think conservative trollers, that they can troll anyone by using those words. But they are forgetting the next moment that when you troll Happy Mann by saying the discredited or disgruntled or sour grapes, in the next moment you are the same troller who've been saying thank you to Jody Wilson. So have some ethics and morality and some humility in your doings, that at least you are consistent. And I don't see that the trollers of the conservative system is even balanced in their thought process.
So has there been, as far as the blowback question, just circling back to that, has there anybody calling you up and saying, Happy, if you would have kept your mouth shut, you might have had a political career here? Is there anybody that's telling you that that's it, you're done, your political career with the Conservatives is over now?
No, I have not. I don't approach anyone. They have not approached me. The thing is, Happy been known for a long time, and that I'm not here to make a deals with anyone. Neither this whole episode was for making the deals. Those things was when they were trying to vet me out. Yes, they asked me to withdraw and this and that, and I said no, I'm not here to withdraw, because nothing has changed on my resume since 2012 and 2015. This is a complete hypocrisy you're trying to design. But on a second hand, I was thrilled inside when they vetted me out that Jason Kenney is trying to set a high bar for everyone, that even if your close family member has been exposed to any wrongdoing, and he will vet you out. But it breaks my heart when this formula of that same level of the vetting has been used for Happy Mann has not been implemented for other candidates.
Well, for Jason Kenney himself.
That's what I'm saying. So there's a clear pattern between a sheep and a shepherd. So that was not a grassroots guarantee. That was not what the conservative movement was all about. So the moral values he was trying to establish and giving me when they vetted me out, and he's simply morally and ethically corrupt when it comes to himself.
So you're in a tight spot because you've been a conservative forever. You've got a lot of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears dedicated to the Conservative Party, or UCP now. So who are you going to support? How do you even decide?
Up till today, I'm still I'm not NDP or I'm not liberal or anything. I'm conservative mind, but I'm conservative mind from a different reasons. For me today, can I still vote for a UCP under Jason Kenney? I doubt it. It is not a fight with the political ideology of. It is a fight that, is Alberta ready for a morally and ethically corrupt premier?
If you put the morals and ethics aside, like people have to with the president to the south, but if we put morals and ethics aside, how's Jason Kenney doing on policy? If we look just through the lens of policy, are you on board with the things that he's proposing?
No, he's selling a lies to Albertan on everything, in my opinion. If you go from a pipeline, he was with Harper in power for 12 years federally. Why in 12 years they have not built a pipeline to the Tidewater?
Now they're blaming the current government.
Now they're and now, although knowing that this is a federal issue and the matter is in court, and blaming NDP or Rachel Notley for that is not a fact. So when you're trying to sell the lies to Albertans, I don't think Albertans are that naive that they will buy this, that he will fight for a pipeline. On equalization, if you talk about, who voted for it, who negotiated in the past when the equalization was negotiated? Their government, they were in government for 12 years there. What you're trying to sell to Albertans is a complete lie. And you know what my fear is, in honesty, as being a politician for so many years? I came to this country from India, that there is a law of the land here. There is some honesty, decency, and some ethics still alive. And now the politics has reached to that level where they are trying to have politics as a next organized religion, where they're creating a fear. And when you create a fear in public's mind, and what you're doing is you're not letting the public decide on their own, so you're getting organized. And that's a dangerous part where the politics is arriving.
Do you think that's something new, though? It seems that
it's new.
It seems like the politics has always been that way.
No, it was not even in that direction. And if you analyze properly, I've been always vocal about this system, that why have they done so far this kind of a things, and why they keep on channelizing individual like us who've been living under the tolerance from a long time. We have seen racism, we have seen the division within the communities, we have seen everything. When you really analyze the word tolerance is never a complete closure. Tolerance is a fight within. We tolerate each other because we can't do anything, because law of the land barred us from doing that. So what it should be in reality, it should be a acceptance.
I agree. Tolerance is a terrible word.
It's a terrible word. So since they know now that the young millennials, the public is coming forward and start getting themselves out of the tolerance. So they want a society of to be established on a mankind. They want to establish a society where the humanity comes first, equal opportunities for everything and everyone. So they know that their base of the fear will go away. So they are channelizing this fear again by channelizing their system of value, which they think as a conservative values, into the fear, and they're organizing it as a next religion.
Do you feel, just in a conversation with a good friend of mine earlier today, and a lot of people that I talk to agree that there's sort of this sense, this energy right now that people are sick of being lied to. And I mean, politicians have had a bad reputation since always, but which is unfortunate because they should be good public servants. You know, they should be looking after us, not looking after themselves. But anyway, there seems to be a real rejection right now of dishonesty, of corruption. I think that was evident in the Alberta Conservative government under Alison Redford, the flights and everything else, and dipping into the public purse too many times. And people said, you know, we're a conservative province, but this just can't fly. And I believe it was a reaction to the corruption that put the NDP in. So let's just throw a grenade in the room. Let's see what happens. Anything but corruption. I just be honest with us. And I think that's how we got to where we are today. And I think that appetite is just getting stronger and stronger for people just to be straightforward. So are you getting that same sort of sense?
Absolutely. I have been got so many personal direct messages from the public saying, you know, at least we would see some honesty. That, as I mentioned before, I'm a human being. I made a mistake. It's okay to accept it and move on.
Yeah.
So those kind of the messages give you a courage. That gives you that the hope is still alive. But is that corruption going anywhere? No, it's not. It's even getting deeper. Only the model of the corruption has been changed. Now they are getting corrupt to sell the lies. Now they are selling hypocrisy. They're giving a different version of that. And you know why this is happening? This is a critical part we have to understand. The conservative mindset, if you look from that, they never let the education system, especially particularly in Alberta, they will not let the education system learn the history. You know how bad we in the racial profiling system when it exists. It exists because we are naive from the history. Whether
which history are you talking
whether
about?
World War I, World War
Okay.
II, or whether it is a two historics which we are forgetting about the slavery of the Irish people. Who made Irish people slave and where they took them? Secondly, Opium War of China. That is another historic document. So controlling the business part by giving Opium War of China as historics, as a slavery for the Irish people, they have demolished these two episodes in the world history in such a direction. And they are bringing the Brits model. When the conservative system started, it started from the Brits model of the colony system. That colonization was such a terrible act as a disaster to the mankind that we don't want this civilization to understand that where we are today, why the word tolerance has been invented and given to us in education system, because they want your memories short. They don't want you to read and realize and get educated from that aspect, that what they have done to the world. And I often get when I started this politics, and I used to get this, hey, if you don't like, go back to your country. I have got that kind of comments. Then I used to say, you know what, guys, maybe you're naive from the history. Why you're naive from the history?
So you've actually heard those actual words being said to you, to your face?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that an often thing? Like, when's the last time you heard somebody say, hey, Habby, why don't you go back to India?
That was the last time I was in about 10 years ago. So that's what I'm saying. In the last 10 to 12 years, things have changed. And those individuals still exist in a different form when we see that a division of racial profiling.
Now, was it just some idiot?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not like it was somebody that was in power or had influence.
Never. That's the reason I'm saying those tolerance system came from a very deep rooted that historics is very important in order to know the politics.
Have you had that personally, though? Have you had personal over the last, let's say, 15 years? Because the world's very different than it was 15 years ago. So in the even in the last 15 years, have you personally experienced any significant racism?
Not significant, has reduced a lot. I think we are in a much better world living. And what I believe in, 99% of the population in anywhere in the world is good. Doesn't matter which race, color, culture,
You'll
creed
find
you are.
idiots in any group.
You find idiots in any room. But the reason I'm telling this is that when we keep that 1% alive for our personal use, for example, that the girl Eva has to resign for her comments, and now it's a balanced system.
Do you think she should resign because of her comments?
That's up to the party's vetting.
But what do you think? What's your personal feeling?
In my opinion, if you hold that kind of a views without knowing what you're doing, either come out and apologize and say, you know what, you must have made a mistake. But if you are not even coming forward and accepting the responsibility, then there is a problem. I don't have a problem with individuals making mistake and coming forward. But if you're not even recognizing your mistakes, even if you're not talking about that, hey, mistake has been done, because the mistake admit will be the mistake corrected. If you don't even admit your mistake, how will you correct your mistake? You cannot eyewash public anymore. Those days are gone now.
You coming forward, how much of that is just who you are, and how much of that is your religion, is Sikhism, that pushed you to come forward?
It is a value system I've been carrying from day one. If you remember the Wild Rose time, when Wild Rose voted to demolish the Human Rights Commission, I was the single voice that said, you know what, maybe we have done this in naivety by not knowing why this institution is in place, and I oppose it, but I will educate my fellow Wild Roses, and we will see in next AGM what we'll do. And if I don't know if you follow that, in the next year, the next AGM, we overwhelmingly put that motion back forward and say, yes, Human Rights Commission need to be corrected in a way, where we see the problems, but those institutions are needed. What I'm saying is that I always try to fight for the righteousness. And when I looked at this, that morally and ethically the mistake has been made, that is my religion is humanity first. I think I have violated the basics of the humanity. Doesn't matter I'm Sikh or I respect every religion the same way. But when I saw this, I saw that I have done something wrong in morally and ethically towards the humanity, and I should come forward and do this.
So what's next for you, Happy? Are you going to stay in politics? Are you going to be running again? What do you want to do?
Politics is my passion. It is not that I'm going to
Why?
go. It's going
What is it about politics that makes it a passion for you?
It's a passion because what I know, because I'm experienced in two different worlds. It's a difference between experiencing in and what you have experienced. For example, I could bring a more a value system to it. I'm doing a business. I never came forward to be an MLA to just make a paycheck. I came forward that what I can do and what I can give back to the nation. This is the wish I have, that I want to live and die for Canada, because this is a country who gave me everything. It's a son of the soil aspirations you have in you, that how you can give back. For example, I know the farmers we have. The problem is sometimes the politicians, they even don't know the problems. And secondly, if they don't know the problems, they're going to be lawmakers.
Well, not a lot of politicians have been on a farm.
That's what I'm saying. So they're lawmakers, but they have no idea what they are experiencing in. It's lots of issues like skip cropping, double cropping. How are we going to put our agriculture back into a double cropping by using the models? Sometimes when India has a green revolution, we can bring those technologies back here to do that. Secondly, you can diversify your byproduct system of your agriculture. So many things you can bring on table, and then you can just give back. As I mentioned, the education system. if we're going to keep on preaching a tolerance, we're going to keep on teaching our kids a tolerance, where the acceptance will come then.
Now, on
So many
education,
things.
that's sort of one of the challenges that I've had with, I mean, I was a lock for the UCP vote. I was a Wild Rose member. And then, of course, that flipped over to UCP. I got friends that are UCP candidates, great people. I like them, you know. But one of the things that Jason Kenney has done, and I know better because my wife is a school principal, is completely either lie or is wildly ignorant about the educational system and the curriculum, has absolutely no clue. And that is disturbing. If you're going to be making policy, either he believes in something that's not true or he's willfully lying. It's one of the two on curriculum. As an example, he goes on and on about discovery math. Discovery math is not in the curriculum, Happy. Nobody even uses it. But he says that discovery math is the reason that our math scores are in the toilet. Well, they're not in the toilet. We're third in the country, which is, I mean, we could always be first. There's always room for improvement, but we're third in the country. I looked it up, but nobody looks it up.
That's a problem. When you said he is arrogant or he's lying, he's a professional liar. He's a very professional liar. When he talks to you one-to-one, he's a different Jason Kenney. When he goes in public, he's a different Jason Kenney. That is something I experienced firsthand with him. That is the reason when I was, for me,
have you met Brian Jean?
Before, yes.
And would he have been a better leader in your opinion? If
I analyze today, yes. In today's circumstances, what we are getting and what we have lost, yes. Here is what you have to look from, in my opinion, is that sometimes we make emotional and rational decisions at the moment what you experience in. But then you come to a realization and you realize later on that what has done wrong. Israel Burton's lost a credible leader in that way. Yes. What was that a right move for a Brian Jean to abandon the Wild Rose on the name of the unity? In my opinion, today is still wrong. So there was some basic difference of ideology, because politicians always want to go ahead and earn the job. Brian Jean, in my opinion, was also...
The irony is that the UCP came into power for the same reason that the Conservatives got kicked out of power, because people were looking for an alternative. You can't have anybody in power for 40 bloody years without them going corrupt. I don't care what party it is. Yes. If you are entrenched for 40 years, there's going to be glad handing and palm greasing, and it will masticize over time. It just will, no matter who's in power.
I agree.
That's just how where power can expand, it will expand. And that's what Albertans rejected. They said, "Whoa, this is clearly you got people you got your hands in other people's pockets. So yeah, you're done." And the Wild Rose grew. It rose, the Wild Rose.
Yeah.
It sprouted up, and now Wild Rose is gone, and boy, they had a rough time in the press. They were called all kinds of nasty things. Your time in the Wild Rose, was there? Because they were called a bunch of hillbillies and hicks and just the worst kind of racists. That's and really intolerant, unaccepting people, homophobic, and everything else. Was that your experience at all in the Wild Rose?
No, it is. Again, there is 1% or maybe few. You can say 10 or 15 idiots you can find everywhere.
Yeah, you'll always find one.
You always find one, but. Again, the problem, I think, what we are preaching out to the public, it is something the public has to get out from the political correctness. The political correctness has reached to a level where they don't want an average individual or a normal human being coming forward for a politics who can just be a good, before I use this word leader, let me say how I analyze this. there used to be a church ruling the state.
Mm-hmm.
If you look in the back days, okay, then slowly and gradually, the power slipped from a church to a statesman. And they invented two words. When the church lost the power, there is a word priest. When a state, means a kingdom, a king, lost the power to the democratic system, they invented the word public servant. The problem of today's world is they've been still viewing, looking, and praising that public servant as a king. They have not reached out on a level of the word what public servant means, because the pillar of the democracy, which was we the people, that was the pillar of we the people inventing the word public servant. But in reality, the public service is nowhere near in the corrupted politicians' world. That's where the problem comes. Individual like us came as a public servant. The wish was to be a public servant.
The system works otherwise, though.
The system works
backwards.
Backwards.
I'm smiling ear to ear because you're picking my brain. I've never heard anybody else say this before. But just to share with you, I've often thought how backwards things are.
Yeah.
We say whether it's question period or whether it's parliament or the legislature, we've created palaces.
Yeah.
For our politicians. Well, who lives in a palace? The king lives in a palace. So we've deified our politicians, right? Red carpet treatment wherever they go, and everybody kisses their butts, and it's a pretty good feeling walking around like a rock star, getting treated like red carpet and all the perks and everything else. Yeah. And that's what's wrong, because when you get a taste of that, you don't let it go, and you will say anything. Do anything to keep it. And that's the problem. Our legislators, the parliament, beautiful, beautiful buildings. That's not where question period should be. And that's not where the offices should be. Leave them as a monument and put them in a warehouse or something with some cubicles, like something where the people are here and you're here, because that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be answering to us, but that's not how it goes.
That's what public needs to get on.
Yeah.
That are they really choosing a public servant, or they are choosing an entitled kings or entitled rulers? So that's what the education system needs to be revised in certain way.
Yeah.
That what we're going to groom, what we're going to leave for the next generation. Are we going to leave the legacy of these entitled cronies, corrupt people? Or are we going to leave a legacy of something new, which will invent in Alberta? Alberta has been always a leader. I believe in that. I think this is a time for Albertans to set a standard that if you are morally and ethically sound, you will automatically obey the law of the land. But if you are not morally and ethically aware, you will always find a way to get out from the law of the land, and you will find your way to do your corrupt system. You will find the way to be in absolute power. And absolute power is the first step towards a corruption.
Absolutely. And that's why the further left you go, and people, to your point, and teaching history, a lot of kids, history, what does it matter? It matters a lot, because what they don't understand is the further left you go, the closer you are to a dictatorial government, because it's that slippery slope of power. And as the power expands, it hits this tipping point where you can't get it back.
No, you can't. It's a funny. I will share this story with you. When the first time I got that comment, go back to your country, and I called the person. I said, I know you're doing this because you're naive from the history. And I said, you know what? India was a country who was putting a 36% of the GDP to the world when Brits took over India. We paid 13 trillion sterling pounds in World War I and World War II as a debt, which was close to 66% of the Brits' debt in world wars. And you think in World War II, the liberty of the Indian subcontinent was at stake, or the liberty of our Sikhism or other peoples?
Did you have relatives that fought in World War II?
Yes, I'm saying. So I said, country always belongs to the people who fought for the country. And my forefathers, they fought for the liberty of this country. And you're telling me to go because I think this country belongs to me more than it belongs to.
Well, you should know, Happy, that it's well known within the military anyway.
It is well known in the military.
Like within the Army, right? I was with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry for a short time, just 5 years. And even back then in the early 90s, it was well known, and the Sikh warriors were very well respected and considered to be excellent fighters. And so we know it, but it's not in the public.
In the books, it's not in the public domain.
It's not in the public domain.
Yes. No. So that's what needs to be explored. What that will do, that will create a harmony within the community, that those even few challenged ones, and few of those are naive, because if we will not tell them that what have we gained in World War I, what have we gained in World War II, what has been gained in slavery of Irish people, what has been gained in the slavery of the African people, what has been gained in the Opium War, if we will not discuss these things, the today's politics will deteriorate, in my opinion, because we are not bringing the thought process from the learning. We are still leaving it on an experience system. We are not bringing what we have already, what the world has already experienced in. So we have to change that entitled system.
It's difficult, Happy, because in Canada and the US, we're geocentric. So, and our sense of history is geocentric. So because we've never had war on our soil, aside from Pearl Harbor,
yes,
and of course 9/11, but we have not had asymmetric warfare on our soil since 1812.
Yes,
right. So because of that, and I really noticed it when I came back from the war in Croatia. People are in a bubble, and they don't understand. They think it's impossible that tyranny could ever happen here, and it's not. And if you understand your history, you'll know it's not.
Yes.
And this is probably one of the reasons you're a conservative, because you understand that keeps you in the other direction. You know, all these Antifa people with no understanding of history or what the hell they're talking about. Oh, you're a fascist. Like, yeah, no, that's not how this works. The dictatorships happen when you go left, not when you go right. And when you go right, it's the opposite of dictatorship. It's trying to return power and maintain autonomy for the individual.
It is a polished dictatorship in the right side too, because the mindset of the politician is always to grab the power. It is not, they are not there for a public service. As I said, the service to the state is not their prime wish. It is, they feel it's a responsibility, but it is not their wish.
You know what, though? I've met R.J. Sigurdsson a few times. I honestly believe that he wants to serve. I really do. And great guy. Leanne's a lovely lady. I truly believe that he wants to serve this province. At least that's the case now. Give her 10 years, we'll see. But I like the guy, and as an individual, I can vote for him easily. The challenge is with this leader, because I know firsthand, and you know firsthand, he's not an honest dude at all.
He's not.
He's just not an honest dude. All right, off the Kenny thing for a bit. I want to switch gears, because not every day I get to talk to a Sikh politician. Let's talk helmet laws. How do you feel about them?
It has to be looked from, I feel good in that, but I still think. What
do you mean you feel good in that? You agree that there should be an exception for the helmet laws?
I agree as being an exception, but I still have some cautions in it. The reason being is that without knowing the actual Sikhism system, without knowing the actual Sikh value system, that how the 5Ks and all that, doing this, because first of all, we have to educate the public that they have to know that we fought as a Sikhs. We fought World War I, World War II with
Damn
the
right
turbans.
you did.
With the turbans, we were exempt from wearing the helmets during the war even. Okay. So if the Sikh can go in front of the bullet or even the tanks and all that in the war without wearing the helmet, it is not end of the world if you give them a chance to practice their religion as under the charter of your free religion practices, to exempt them from that.
So I got a direct question. One of the conversations that have come up, this is years ago now, but I heard it said that come from a place of complete ignorance. So I'm asking, because I have absolutely no idea, but because I have complete ignorance. Is the turban optional in Sikhism? Like, can you wear something in lieu of the turban? Because I've heard that you can wear a special bracelet in lieu of the turban. Is there any truth to that?
No, that's not.
Okay, so the turban is not optional in Sikhism.
No. See, when it happens is once you are baptized, it is totally, you cannot go without turban once you are baptized.
I didn't know baptism was a Sikh thing. That's cool.
Yes. It's a Sikhism has a baptism. That's when you wear that bracelet. There's a 5 case. That's when you get baptized. You have that. Okay. Secondly, when you have unshorn hair, like I have unshorn hair, so I have to have a turban all the time. There is some individuals who choose to wear a different ways of turban. They tie your turban differently. But if you have unshorn hairs, you are basically in your cultural practice, in your religion system, you do wear the turban. Can a turban fit over the, can the helmet fit over the turban?
That'd be one hell of a helmet.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I think since we are talking that I don't know if you recall or not, but I was part of it when they bring the bicycle helmet law.
Okay.
That was during the PC time. And Ed Stalmach used to be a transportation minister, and had a meeting with the Mr. Stalmach, and we were arguing that why you're taking a childhood away from a kid who has a baptized kid, and he has to wear a turban as their religion, and then that kid cannot ride a bicycle because he has to wear a helmet. And that's the time I do got a question that if you are not going to obey the law of the land, why don't you go away? And I gave if you look at in a Herald, there was an article by Naomi fighting for a penny a day. And what I was that time, I think the Alberta budget, healthcare budget was close to 15 billion or so. And when I studied that case, I studied that there was 5 to 8 head injuries reported every year towards this in general. And most of them are from the sports injuries. And there was no such case as a turban wearing kid ever got a head injury.
Well, it looks like it'd be pretty good protection, actually. It's a fair bit of padding there.
And then I studied that, and I said, look, guys, you have to understand that the debate was if you don't want to wear the helmet, you should pay for your own health care for the brain injury. And I told them, I said, guys, look, we as any baptized Sikh who are asking for that exemption, they don't drink, they don't smoke. If you look at driving related injuries, if you put the budget from the smoke, first and second hand, third hand, smoke related diseases, if you look from the sports injuries from skiing and all that, as those individuals from Alberta, when Alberta, that time our population was really, I think, close to 2.7 or maybe, in my opinion, less than that. I said, those individuals are paying 66 cents from their tax towards these things. And if you pick out of those 7, if you pick even one baptized turban wearing kid do get injured, you're fighting for a penny a day? Are you willing to pay 66 cents back to those individuals who are paying for your cause of the smoke-related healthcare cost, or the drinking and driving or other drinking-related healthcare cost, and you are whining about paying a penny for that kid? So
you're talking about
So it's an education thing.
Replacing one with another, though. But and as you know, that's not how law works. It's like this law cannot be justified because of other factors. And one of the arguments that's made is that I struggle with, because it seems like a fairly sound argument, is that there's one law, period. So if Sikhs are exempt from helmet laws, then everybody should have the option.
And nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong in that.
So do you agree that everybody should have the option?
Oh, yes. If individual is willing to take a risk of that, because turban is a very protective. You have to look from three different. Why the Sikhs choose to wear the turban when maybe our
because it gets the girls.
So that may be a different thinking, but in reality is that brain is a very sensitive part of our body. Yeah. So when we have an unshorn hair and we tie our hair here, first of all, that protects you from the fall. On top of that, when you have a nicely tied turban, that also protects you from that. So for me, I don't mind if individual adult choose to do that. That's the individual's choice.
Just curious, what's the theological reason for a turban? Like with Jewish people, the yarmulke is for humility, like to cover your head because God's looking down on you, sort of thing. At least I think that's what it is. I apologize to my Jewish friends if I got that wrong. But is there sort of a story behind the turban of why it's worn?
No, Mark. It's two ways. As I said, first of all, when we are naive from knowing that there is a difference between just creating this thing and thinking this is a symbol,
okay,
or thinking it has been. Not a symbol, but it's an article of faith.
Okay.
So when you consider a turban as an article of faith, then your understanding will be better. So the audience has to think that way, that for a baptized Sikh or unshorn hair Sikh, this turban is like an article of faith. It is not a symbol which could be removed or which could be compromised.
Another completely ignorant question: is Sikhism monotheistic or is it multi-theistic?
Multi in a way, because Sikhism believe in a humanity.
Okay,
it's a complete Again,
is it closer to Buddhism then?
No, it is closer.
Which isn't a religion at all.
It is closest to everything. Sikhism is a way of living.
Okay.
It's a complete. It has been converted. When you have a way of living, it's a difference between a faith and a religion. That's a fine line between a faith and a religion. Is when you say that, you know what, this is a way of life. Way of life is more towards the faith of a mankind. Religion is a bit organized system, in my opinion. Sikhism is never for an organized system. It is a way of life. Way of life is where
sort of a code of conduct.
Whereas a humanity comes first. The first time ever, the slavery for the women has been recognized, and openly our masters had came forward and say, how could you denounce these women who has given a birth to such a saints and kings and all those good people? So they have denounced that. They have preached the equality the first time back in 1600s when the woman equality was preached. Back in 1600s when they have has a repression into a way, and recognizing the repression towards the mankind. So the point is that we have to ask each other to make a better world. Do we owe our repression towards the mankind? And what that is, do we owe our repression to each other to make this world a better world? We all going to make mistakes in life, and this world's going to continue on making mistakes. But you have to have a big heart and a courage to come forward. Whether you make a mistake in politics or in a daily life or in a business or anything, I think it is not about apologizing. It is about recognizing that maybe you have violated somebody's right by your wrongdoing. until we don't bring the world to that passion of serving the humanity and setting that kind of a standard at high moral ground values, we will never have a complete acceptance. We will be still living in a tolerance. And that's what worries me when I've been repeatedly from the last 6 weeks, I've been saying, yes, it happened. I was on a round table. It happened in my presence. And still.
So you don't think anything's going to come of it?
I believe in the law of the land. I think it will come and I hope it will come. But it's not my job. I'm not here a judge. I'm just here to tell the truth to the public that what I stand for, what I believe in, and what I know and what I have a knowledge of. It is up to the Albertans to believe. Because I am fighting on 2 grounds. One ground is that those trawlers who are trying to discourage and saying, oh, he's a disgruntled. On the other side, I'm fighting that, you know what? If I will not come forward, then who else?
Yeah.
Somebody
and it
has
takes
to come
tremendous courage. And when I reached out to you there, I am so glad that you decided to come and tell your story on this. We're at about the 1 hour mark, Happy. Is there any closing message that you'd like to leave for people?
I want to humbly request Albertans that this is a time. I know we might have a difficult times from economy perspective. We might have a difficult times from a business perspective, but it will leave a mark on a history that what we chose. Are we choosing the livelihood of a daily living, which could be corrected in a shorter period of time if the economy recovers or the pipeline got built, because it's a different issues. But
so you're asking people not to sell your soul to the devil kind of thing?
Yes.
Choose ethics over economy.
Choose ethics over the economy, because and that's even a lie. I explained. It's even selling a lie. It is not about.
So you don't think that the NDP has damaged our economy?
It is not the NDP. They got all this mess of 44 years. And people often give this example that, you know what, Alaska has this much, Norway has this much. They have to understand that Alaska and Norway has a different jurisdiction. Norway is a country itself, Alberta is not. But it could be. I'm not giving that NDP is absolutely 100% right on economy issues. Yes, there is a flaws in doing, because they came there as an accidental government, and then people said we need experienced people. And when you look at the 87 candidates of the UCP, how many of them has experience?
So let's close.
So in my opinion, sorry, I'm gonna
no, go ahead, Happy.
In my opinion, is you have a choice. Either you're gonna choose what the Kenny is selling you, economy, pipeline, this and that, all those lies without telling you the truth, over the ethical and moral values, or you think that we're going to leave the legacy for our kids and do the right thing, that make Jason Kenney held accountable and tell him, come clean. Either you apologize to Albertans and it's okay, we will move on. But if you're not going to apologize, if you're not going to recognize your mistake, if you're not going to do the ethical thing, then maybe you need to be vetted out.
I think that's wise words, and I would agree with you. So to close the show, I'd like you to share one thing that you think the NDP have done well, even though you're on the other side of the aisle, and one thing that you think they really got wrong. One of each.
I think they have really taken courage to diversify the economy of Alberta.
Okay.
And they have gone into a good direction by diversifying our economy and bringing a different investments. And yes, in my opinion, they have ignored the business community in general. When you say so,
SMB or big business?
Small, not so much in a small business, but big business.
Okay,
in my opinion. So this is something, a compromising situation.
Well,
it is.
They sure hurt small business with the minimum wage hike.
It is not, in my opinion. The reason being is, I live in a northeast part where the household income was $10, $11, and there was a 4 or 5 individuals. If you look from that angle, and they're very hardworking people who do the dishes, who do cleaning jobs, and all those jobs which Canadians at large in a workforce has abandoned, in my opinion, because I have seen this in the last 20 years. And if you look from that angle, that they were very hard for them to meet their ends. And now, if there's a 4 working individuals in the house and they're earning $3 to $4 per hour extra, that is bringing $2,000 to $3,000 in their household. And this going back to the economy at large. So if you look from the small business running the business, I think the average owner of the small business was already paying a good money, $14, $15. Doesn't hurt much.
Let me share with you the other side of the story. So I've been a small business owner forever. I'm also the founder of the Okotoks Business Association, where we get together every month. And so I am embedded in the business community. And people would have between 2 and 12 employees, so small business. And 100% of nothing is nothing. Raising the minimum wage, the actual, it's altruistic. I understand the altruistic provide a fair living wage, but you can't get blood from a stone. There's not that much margin in most small businesses. Where small business owners are not a bunch of Scrooge McDucks with their employees are these peasants. So what's happening is with most, whether it's a car wash or a fast food place, a restaurant, all that happened is that there's now less jobs for the $12 an hour or whatever minimum wage was at. Is at 15 now, give or take. Let's say it's 12 to 15. So that extra $3 an hour means that people now have less hours during the week. So they're not bringing home more. So they're making more per hour, but less. And there's less jobs because the owners can't be business owners anymore in a lot of cases. A true business owner isn't self-employed. They have enough spread there to hire a manager to run it so that they can scale and open in more shops here, and here. But when there's no margin, you can't scale. You can't open new locations. You can only have the 1 or 2 locations that you can handle, and you're there yourself. So now the manager's job is gone, because the owner has to be the manager, and there's less hours for the tellers because you have no choice but to bring your family in as a family business, and so there's less available wages to be had in these small businesses because of the minimum wage hike. It's a net negative as opposed to a net positive.
If you recall 2007, and when that boom was, even the business was closed because they can't find the workers. They were even paying in some of the areas in Alberta, paying $23, $24 even at McDonald's and at a Tim Hortons back in Grand Prairie area and all that, right? When you set that kind of a system during the peak economy, and the government failed to recognize the aftermath part of it, what that has done, in my opinion, is that the small businesses, and which is good in my opinion to expand and keep on expanding, and this is how the economy works, and I completely agree with you. But from other side of the aspect, you have to look that if you don't have a will of a sharing, it's a will of the sharing. Whether it's a will of the sharing to, as you said, taking the blood from the stone, or the will of the sharing is to have equal opportunities. In certain cases, it was needed because it takes a heart away when a 64, 65-year-old individual taking a train and going and cleaning for 8 to 10 hours and then coming home and can't even meet the ends. Yeah. But at other side, I could see those small business people going out, taking the loans, and then now their profit has been depleted and they're hard to meet the ends, right? It's a both side of it. But what would be a good compromise in this is that we both have to come forward on a sharing system of each other's respect. And that's what the NDP maybe lacked in a
It
smaller
sounds like you're more
businesses.
orange than conservative.
No, I'm not. I'm a logical thinker in a way, because
Yeah.
when you experience in those things, for example, in a Northeast Calgary, we pay higher insurance than the North people live in the Northwest. You own a same car, you pay high insurance in
I
Northeast.
didn't know that.
Oh yes, it happens. You pay more insurance on your, because what they're saying is because of the security. Like, good guys, that is not an individual's responsibility. If there is more crime in certain area, that is a state's responsibility. So it's not that individual's responsibility. And you can go and call a Northeast, any part in a Calgary Northeast for the vehicle code, what you are paying here, you will get high codes. So sometime we are so naive from the other side because we don't experience in that part. We don't understand what it is. Same with my conversation with the conservatives all the time. When you do cuts that, okay, we're going to build one school here, one here, and one here. Hey, we need to understand that in certain part where the family value system still exists, where two brothers, parents, they all live in the same home, and they share the same residence, that means the population is higher than that areas. There is more kids in that area. You cannot compare apple to orange. You need more school in that. You need a different resources in that. So I could see your rationale in Okotoks differently, but in certain part of the towns and in certain businesses, it is different. Again, my vision is different. As that's the reason I came to the politics, is that you can bring to the table as a collectively that what you know, and then you can make a collective decision, because now you are getting the other side of the story too. It is not always to put your views into the iron curtain. You have to make sure that you hear and you know other parts as well. So in closing, what I'm trying to tell Albertans is, Albertans, wake up. Otherwise, you will be in a collateral damage. And when I'm using the word collateral damage, it's not a vague word, it's a very specific word I'm using. That if you have not exercised your right to fight for the righteousness and set a tone for a future of moral and ethical, where your public servant be held accountable and not only as agreed to have a power, this world will not change. And I'm inviting you to join that fight, that let's change the world and let's save Alberta from a collateral damage.
Happy man. You're a prince, brother. I appreciate you being on the show today. It's good of you to make the drive down to Okotoks. And thank you for your courage and your honesty. It's we need a hell of a lot more of it.
Thank you so much. And with all due respect and humility from your audience, again, I'm a simple, normal human being. All I have tried is to best of my ability. English is my third language. So I'm sorry for anything which, if I couldn't explain properly, because English is my third language.
Well, I think you're doing just fine. And shukariya.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
This is the Mankey Show podcast.